Hey guys, it's Kevin Answer for Orphan Black Season 3, Episode 3, Formalized, Complex, and Costly. And for once, that actually makes sense. That title actually makes sense because this episode, by definition, was complex. Tons of shit happened in this episode, and I loved pretty much everything about this episode. I mean, there were some huge things that happened. A lot of people said this episode was kind of convoluted, but I really didn't feel as convoluted at all. I think everything really connected very well. Everything is connecting in this episode, and I absolutely love that. But let's get this episode because it was amazing. And wow, this season's killing it. Honestly, this season is on point. Let's get to I mean, the Orphan Black Riders are on point. That is. So let's get to this episode. So Sarah and Felix are dealing with the issue, of course, of having a dead body, of having Seth's body in their apartment complex. And I love that they're basically trying to hide Seth's body whatever way they can. They hide to the tub and figure out how to deal with it. And Felix suggests having Mrs. S help them, but Sarah refuses. And again, it just shows that Sarah doesn't really trust Mrs. S right now and really wants nothing to do with her. And I like seeing that. I thought that was a good way to start the episode, definitely. And then, of course, Art shows up, and obviously, now that Art's there, that's not going to end well. So they hide the blood and body since he won't go away, but they don't do a good job because Art sees the blood, and obviously, Art's not an idiot. They're doing whatever they can to get him not to go into the bathroom, but he goes into the bathroom. And I mean, if someone's like, don't go into the bathroom, they're going to go into the bathroom. Like, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to go into the bathroom if you say don't go into the bathroom. And they try to stop him, but it's too late, and he finds the body, and you see this look in his face, and Sarah makes it clear they had nothing to do with it, which they didn't. It was set. It was um, it was all Rudy that killed him. It wasn't Seth. That it wasn't Sarah that did it. So he says he can't look away from this, but then Sarah introduces him to, he really wants to find out more of what's going on here. And Sarah then introduces him to Cosima through Skype, and right there, he's now a member of the Clone Club. And I thought that was awesome because he didn't know about Cosima or Alison, and I thought that was really cool. And I'm kind of wondering if Art's now going to find out about the other clones, Alison, Helena, Rachel. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if that happens. So she says she knows Beth and what she knew Beth and what she was going through, which of course begs the question, if she knew Beth, why didn't Beth contact her? Like, that's something that definitely we find out in this episode. So Cosima says that the male clones are likely to have a defect that they do, and she wants to inspect Seth's brain. So Art says he wants no part of this, and however he does tell Sarah that they found a lead on Mark. And I like that Art doesn't really want to help them, but you can see for whatever reason he wants to work with them on this, because obviously he's saying he doesn't want to work with them, and yet he does. So I find that kind of interesting. So then we see Mark and Gracie. They're still in their hotel room, and I have to say, girl who plays Gracie, the actress, amazing actress. I love what they did with her in this episode. They're giving her so much more to do this season. Last season she had stuff to do, but this season she has such a more expanded role that I just love what they're doing with her character. Honestly, I love her character. I think she's a great actress. She's really creepy. She's also pretty hot, but um, so Gracie leaves to get breakfast, and Mark freaks until she's not as hot as Alexis, that girl in episode 2. Oh my god! But when Gracie leaves to get breakfast, Mark freaks until she returns, and he says that their families are going to be looking for them. Obviously, he can't tell her the truth, and what Gracie makes clear, she doesn't really care that their family's going to look for them, and they start to have sex, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So Allison and Donnie are going through their neighborhood trying to rack up votes for her race, and they come across one of Allison's neighbors. And I have to say, everything with Allison and Donnie is absolutely hilarious. I like that they have the more comedic stuff because it's such a dark season that you have to give someone comedic stuff, and I like that Allison and Donnie are getting that. So this neighbor wasn't going to vote for Allison until Allison offers her the drugs that she's using and buying from Ramon. And all of a sudden, she's all supportive. So we can see that definitely this is going to be the thing that's going to get Allison and Donnie to, that's going to get Allison to win the votes, which I think is kind of funny. So after they have sex, Gracie asks questions and realizes that they're not just there to lay low, because Mark opens up like a book, and I like that he told Gracie the truth here. He tells Gracie pretty much everything, that he was with the military the whole time, and her father Henrik stole valuable scientific material, and Mark was sent to recover it. So Gracie says that they brought him in and trusted him in all those years, and it was all a lie, and she feels betrayed. Obviously, she feels betrayed. I mean, she just had sex with him, and now she feels like that was all, pointless, and he says they're free of her people, but they are not clear, but they're not free of his. So he has to find something of Henrik's, but which Gracie is upset about, and she leaves because she's very worried that this is going to end up bad for them, which I thought was a good scene. So Art and Sarah go on a stakeout and find the midwife from the farm, Alexis, which is that really hot girl from episode 2. I like she actually has a name now, so that's cool. But Basically, she says she doesn't know where Helena is, and she does tell them, though, that Mark ran off with Johansson's daughter, and that Henrik impregnated Helena, as well as Gracie with his babies, and Sarah's pretty pissed at this because she knew, and she didn't bother telling her, and she's just really upset about it, which I can understand why Sarah's upset about that. So Gracie looks in the mirror and Mark comes in. She asks about the child inside of her and tells him that they can't do it alone. He says he will be there for the both of them, and Gracie says she wants to help him somehow because she just feels it's way too dangerous for him to do on his own. Which yeah, it is pretty dangerous. Definitely it's dangerous. Of course, she doesn't know what the truth, but that she knows the truth, she knows how dangerous this could possibly be. So basically, she says the last thing they need is another violent mess, and Mark asks if she has a better idea of how to handle it, so she goes to see Mr. Finch, basically. And she tells Mr. Finch she's there to collect what he held in trust for her father, and she says the problem is the lack of faith in them, and they make fast friends but long enemies, which I thought this was a really great line. She's like, we make fast friends but fearful enemies, and it was so creepy, I have to say. She just got so creepy in the scene, it was awesome. And he gives her the toolbox with the stuff she's interested in, and Gracie honestly is a badass. I never thought of Gracie as a badass, but that scene just, oh my god, she turned into a badass in that scene. That was awesome. So Art asks why Mark took Gracie, and Sarah says she wanted a chew toy, and Art says to think like police, which yeah, they should, and Sarah says it was for love or hostage, and she asks why he's not back at his real job, which I think is a good question. And she asks why he's doing this, and he says he doesn't know because he's riding with his partner. And he says he's not confused, but she is Beth's sister through and through, even though she didn't know. And that's important to him. So I like seeing that. I like seeing that he is working with her because, he was working with Beth, and now he's not on his real job, and I thought that was really interesting. And we get some really good stuff with Art and Sarah in this episode I definitely really enjoyed. This might have just been Art's best episode, I have to say. Definitely Gracie's best episode, but it might just be Art's best episode as well. Something I love about this episode that I focused more on the supporting characters than did on the main characters, which I thought was really cool. So, Helena's in her jail cell at the Castor camp, and she's freaking out, and Seth and Paul arrive, where Virginia's pissed because Seth killed Rudy, and we then find out Virginia is actually Rudy and Seth's mom, which I thought was really, and Mark's as well, the male clone's mom, which I thought was really interesting. We found that out. Definitely, I thought that was interesting. So Paul says it was protocol and goes to smoke with Virginia, where she explains that Helena doesn't have. Now, that makes sense, obviously, why she's pissed that Seth killed Rudy, because that's her son, so, obviously she's pissed at that. And I loved how upset she got. I mean, it was just typical mother fashion. You can kind of tell from the second that she freaked out that it was how a mom would freak out. So I thought that was awesome. So she explains that Helena doesn't have the latent genetic condition, but the closest thing that she can get to the cure is the clone's original DNA tissues, which I think is really interesting overall that we have this cure now. So Kasim and Scott show up at Felix's apartment to look at Seth's brain, and Scott's having trouble looking at the gore of it all, but Kasim manages him to get out his brain so they can take it to the lab. And I like that, he was kind of worried about what was going to happen. I thought that was kind of funny overall. So Rachel's healing in the meantime, and of course, I was wondering what was going to happen with Rachel, because obviously, Rachel's now suffering, and it seems like she is definitely going through some problems. She actually is, and she's not faking them. She's going through some sort of mental rehabilitation with Dr. Neely. He's asking her to name the items that are on the cards he's showing her, and when it gets to a picture of a key, she sees knife, and Neely tells her that the Rachel Duncan that Topside knows is dead due to a train crash, and Rachel wants to go outside, but she can't go outside, which I think is really interesting overall. Which I think it's really interesting. So Virginia goes to have a talk with Rudy, and she takes a look at the logs he's brought back, and it's then that Rudy breaks down, calls Virginia mom, and cries because his brother's dead. And I like that he does have a soul. This does show that, he does have a soul and everything, which I thought was well done. Definitely something I enjoyed seeing. So I like that he does have a soul there. So basically, I thought, as I said, I thought that was really well done. So Allison's business in the meantime is completely booming. It's really funny. We're seeing her sell all this stuff to people, and her neighbors are starting to ask her for soap and stuff, which she's cleverly made as a cover for their drug business, which I think was a really good cover overall. And Donnie even says that they should have done this like years ago, and they used their garage. And of course, Donnie didn't think they had this money to do this, and that they couldn't do this. But they're so popular that they might not lose money now, which I think is awesome. So they use their garage as a home base for their soap making, and Marcy shows up with a proposal. She can get Alison a deal on a new house, but because it's in a different school district, Allison refuses while Donnie's impressed with the saltwater pool. So basically, the question is, are they actually going to do this? We don't really know because that's the only scene we get in this episode of that. So Art and Sarah show up to a man named Willard Finch's place, Mr. Finch, and they show him a picture of Mark, but he says he doesn't recognize this picture of Mark. So they convince him to talk, and he explains that while he doesn't know Mark, Gracie did come by earlier, so they know that Gracie is there. So Gracie takes the toolbox to the hotel, and Mark opens it to find a bunch of journals and no tissue samples, saying it's all junk, and he's really upset about it. And Mark says he has to go take a look himself, and when Gracie says it's too risky, but he says it'll be fine. And Gracie says he better not leave her alone. He says he won't. He goes to interrogate Mr. Finch, torturing him to find out where the rest of Henrik's things are. And while he's at it, Gracie actually hides the toolbox under the hotel bed because obviously he doesn't know that she took that toolbox. And I thought that was interesting that she hid it. Definitely very smart of her to do that. So Sarah and Art go to a dinner to work on all the information they gathered, and Sarah asks why Beth called him in the night she died, not Cosima or Allison. And I like that she asked him this question because obviously he knew Cosima. Why didn't he try to get in touch with Cosima and not, why didn't Beth try to get in touch with Cosima and, not Art? Why'd she do that? So Art then explains that he was in love with Beth, but we find out that Art was actually in love with Beth, but he never said it. And because of that, he feels he has to help them because he feels like, he has to pay for that. And I think that's honestly a very well done reveal. Something I wouldn't have expected, but I think was definitely very well done was seeing that reveal. I definitely really enjoyed that. So knowing that, I just think was really well done, I have to say. Definitely one of the highlights of the episode was that. So Sarah says she'll catch the bus back to her home that night and lets Art leave to go do his own thing. So Rudy goes to talk to Helena. He tells her that Sarah sold her out again, but Helena's still tough as nails. I like that Helena's not believing him because she shouldn't believe him. It's obviously not true. So Paul interrupts him when he tells Rudy to go away. He apologizes to Helena but says she will kill them all, and that was awesome we saw because she's going to get out of there. It shows how much of a badass she is. She's going to kill Rudy. She's going to kill Paul. And honestly, I think Helena will. I think she's going to kill one of them, definitely. I could definitely see it happening. Especially the direction we're heading with the male clones. I could definitely see it happening. So Sarah finds Gracie in a booth at the diner and tells her that Helena is the mother of her kid and is in trouble, so she needs to know where Mark is. And we find out that Mark is actually Gracie's husband, which I thought was really interesting. We found that out, and basically just that I thought was really well done. And Sarah's the only person she's told that to. So Alexis shows up to a Prolethean house in the farmland and tells a woman, Bonnie, that she knows where Mark took Gracie. Because obviously this was something that Bonnie wanted to know, where Gracie is. And Bonnie shows up to the hotel room and finds Gracie, telling her that she needs to come with her because Mark won't support her. And Mark's, this evil person and that she shouldn't trust Mark. And it's an awesome scene, I have to say, definitely. I love seeing that scene. That was pretty awesome. So definitely that was an awesome scene. So Cosima and Scott start running tests to see if there's a new synthetic sequence, and Cosima discovers that they're actually physically related to the boy clones, and not only that, but they're their brother. And I thought that was an amazing reveal, I have to say, because something that really makes sense now is the fact that, the thing that I think makes sense now is how Virginia, supported Helena, took her out for a bite to eat. She did that because she's her mother. It was a motherly thing for her to do. She's helping out her daughter. So just to know that the male clones are related to female clones, I think that's really interesting overall. And the thing is that the male clones are unaware of this, and we find this out when Mark is interrogating Mr. Finch, and he has no idea that Mr. Finch that she took the toolbox. Mr. Finch is claiming that she took everything, and Mark is going to try to look for the toolbox, and Mr. Finch obviously can't give it to him because Gracie took it, and basically Sarah finds that Mark actually killed Mr. Finch, which I thought was crazy. So Sarah says that she knows where Gracie is and that they're actually related, so he has to care about them, and Mark doesn't really believe her, but Sarah's telling him that he's their family, and he's not listening to them. So Castor and Leda are siblings, and when she tells Mark, he threatens her with a gun, and that tells her that they're not family. So he's going to go find Gracie, because, he doesn't believe Sarah for a second. And while he's running away to do so, he gets shot in the leg, and we see Bonnie chasing after him with a gun. This was so awesome, I have to say, such an awesome way to end the episode. And she says they shared everything with him, and now he has to pay, and she kills him, which is something she's been wanting to do for a while, and Sarah witnesses it all, and that's how the episode ends. And the direction we're headed, it looks like Sarah's in danger now because it looks like, maybe Bonnie's coming after her. And I have to say, so many things to love about this episode. Definitely loved a lot of stuff about this episode. A lot to talk about. Let's talk about the revelation that the male clones and the female clones are related. How is this going to change things? Rudy's definitely going to die now. Obviously, they've now killed the two clones. They only have to kill Rudy, and then all the clones are dead. So I think it's really interesting that Rudy's going to be the last one left, which I can understand because he honestly is the most badass out of all of them. Um, What's going to happen with Gracie and Bonnie? How is this going to work out? Is Gracie going to find out that Bonnie killed Mark? How's she going to react to this? I'm not really sure. Maybe Rudy will go after Gracie. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there because obviously this all connects to Helena. So, I mean, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. But I think it's really interesting. Now, how is Helena? Now, Helena obviously knows that that's their mother because we see in the promo that she calls Virginia mom, and Sarah knows now. So I think the only person that doesn't know is Alison. So it kind of seems like Alison's not really a part of this season, which I think is interesting. What's gonna happen with Allison and Donnie? What's gonna happen with them and this offer that they've come across? I mean, they need to figure out if this is what they really want to do with this offer. I think it's a good offer overall, but I just don't really know if they want to take the offer. We'll see what ends up happening. Of course, she wants to give Allison the deal on this new house, but because in a different school district, she refuses, and we'll see if something actually happens there. We'll see what happens. I mean, that could be really interesting. Of course, Gracie doesn't know much of what's going on. Let's talk about. I guess that's really all we really need to talk about. Also, is Helena actually going to kill Paul or Rudy? I think she's going to do it. I think eventually one of them are going to die. Also, Art. What's going to happen with Art? I mean, I don't really want a relation between Art and Sarah. I really don't. I don't think they're developing one. I like where Cal is. I think that's cool. Also, we didn't really see Cal and Kira in this episode, so I'm wondering what's going on there as well. I guess we'll see. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, thought this was the best episode of the season. Absolutely loved it. I'm really loving the direction that they're taking the season. Definitely some really great stuff. And I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for another movie review. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.